Hello and welcome to Project Management BA 373 for fall. This is the Chapter 1 lecture video. We're going to start the first week with Chapter 1 and then we'll move into Chapter 2 in week 2. So when we're looking at what is a project and how is a project different than anything else that we might encounter in a workday? Well, the main difference is that a project is a temporary thing that happens for a very specific result. So a project has a defined lifespan with a beginning and an end. It has something that we might have never done before. It has specific time, cost, performance requirements. An example of a project would be if we designed websites for businesses. Each individual website would be its own project because we would have a start and an end, and each customer would have its specific requirements of what they wanted in that website. A program is a group of projects that have to be completed over a specific time. They might be a common goal, and we have different small projects within the entire program. The example we have here is like a project would be one course in an entire major, where the program is all of the courses required for the major. Another example of project versus program is that a program might be that we're going to do an extensive road construction project, but the road construction project is so large that we have to chunk it out into pieces. We might have something that can't be completed for several years. And so we'll say during year one, we're going to complete this many miles. So the program is the entire road construction project from beginning to end that might take 5 to 10 years to complete. Well, the individual projects are the sections that are completed in chunks during each year. So one of the important things is not to mistake a project with just our normal everyday work. A project is something extra that we do as a part of our work day. We can also have multiple projects going at any given time. We have our regular work examples of things that we do. There's some examples here of different routine repetitive work for things that we can do compared with what a project might look like. So the first example we have where just our routine normal stuff would be taking class notes, where a project is writing a full term paper. So it's not something that we have every day as a part of being a student, but it's an individual thing that we're writing about a very specific item. We might have a research item that we're using for that term paper. We have specific dates that it's going to begin and end. We have a process for getting through that. So that's what we're looking at, the differences between just our normal everyday work and what an individual project looks like. When we're looking at the project life cycle, we have 4 very specific components of that project life cycle. So we have the defining, planning, executing, and closing. Different things happen during those areas of the life cycle. So in the defining, this is where we're deciding what the project is. What are the things that we require for the project? What do we want this project to look like? Any specifications we have? When might we want this project completed by? So a general end date. Who are we going to assign this project to? Maybe we might have to look at, are we going to have to hire anyone for this project. We might have to hire new employees. We might just have to contract out for various things. Then we move into the planning phase. In the planning phase, we're thinking about how long is this project going to take? So not just an end date, but we're making a full schedule of what things have to happen for this project and when do they have to happen by in order to make that goal end date that we set in the first process. We're going to be looking at heavily at the planning of projects and how we do planning management and projects throughout this semester. And we have to create a budget for the project. How much do we expect this project is going to cost? Do we need resources? That resources includes human resources. Do we need to hire new people? Do we need a contractor? Do we need software that we don't currently have? What are the risks to the project? So an example risk, and I'm going to use a lot of road construction projects because I work for the city of Iowa City in the Public Works Department, and most of the projects that I encountered there were road construction projects or bridge building projects for the city of Iowa City. So a lot of my examples that I'm going to use are going to be about road construction. So some of the risks when we're looking at a road construction project are going to be rain delays. In the city of Iowa City, we always try to finish our summer construction projects before student move-in date. Because as you can imagine, if we have a bunch of roads closed for construction, that makes student move-in complicated. So one of our risks is, what if it rains a lot during the summer and we can't be out there working? That's an example. Different projects have different types of risk. Then the execution is we've done all the defining, we've done all the planning, and we're ready to hit the ground. We're actually making this project go. We're going to need to manage the project, make sure it's keeping on time, make sure it's keeping on budget, make sure it's hitting the quality that we expect it to have. And then at the end of the project, we're going to close. If we're creating the project for a customer, we might transfer documents. We're going to release any resources we have. So if we've hired some temporary employees or we outsource to a contractor for any reason, then we're going to evaluate, how did that project go? Did we hit our budgets or were we off budget, and why? And that comes into the lessons learned also. Did we have scheduling delays? What did those scheduling delays do to us? Did the scheduling delays cost us a lot of money? What things might we want to plan into our next project? So as you can see, even just from my examples before, there are a lot of challenges of being a project manager, because project managers have to keep the project on track. They're usually the customer interface also. They're coordinating the entire project team, and they're responsible for answering if the project was a success or not. They're the ones that are responsible for keeping the budget on track, keeping the schedule on track, making the customer happy, making sure that they're meeting with the customer and telling the team what the customer is looking for in a finished project. All of these things are things that the project manager is responsible for. Why do we have project management? Why is project management a big part of business and becoming an even bigger part of our business? One of those things is that we have compression of product life cycles. So with all of the technological changes, we go through products a lot faster than we used to. So I was told one time by a tech company that cell phones become obsolete 6 months after they're released because the technology is changing so fast on cell phones that the hot new technology is out within 6 months. And so if you buy a new Android or a new iPhone, the hot new thing on the day that it is released, after 6 months, that cell phone is considered obsolete. So tech companies have to be working continuously to stay up with new technologies and release new products as customers want the newest bells and whistles. And that also comes into that knowledge explosion. We have so much more information available to us. We also have what's called the triple bottom line. It's called the triple bottom line because it looks at three things: planet, people, and profit. Triple P. So what this means is that we want to create items that make us a profit. That's the main goal of business, make profit. But at the same time, we also want to be treating the people in our customer and our that are working for us well, and the people that are our customers well. And we want to be responsible stewards of our planetary resources. So sustainability is a large part of triple bottom line. In the last 15 to 20 years, sustainability has become a much larger part of the business world, having to follow sustainability rules and regulations for the environment. We have an increased customer focus. Our customers have demands. They want things to be shiny and new, to have all of the bells and whistles. They want things to be updated. They want things to be customized. And then we can have small projects that represent big problems. So some companies have hundreds of projects going at the same exact time. When you think about a pharmaceutical company and the general lifestyle of a pharmaceutical, and these are the drugs that we have for anything that we take, antibiotics and stuff. There's a lot of research and development that goes on behind the scenes before a drug even gets placed on the market for doctors to give it to patients. So pharmaceutical companies have so many different projects going on, just trying to make sure that they can find new drugs to treat new things, and they're also managing the drugs that they're currently producing, and they're managing drugs that are getting ready to be phased out to the generic marketplace. So pharmaceutical drugs are covered under a patent. Once those patents expire, that drug becomes available for generic reproduction and usually also for over-the-counter sales. So we have a lot of different things. Projects also cost a lot of money. So we have to be cognizant of our money management. We have to be planning ahead in our scheduling and everything else for our projects. How do we keep track of all of these projects? Most companies have some kind of software or project management system that they use to schedule items within a project. This will have a list of all projects that are currently going on, including how organizational resources are used, any risk that could be in those projects, how the firm is doing and managing projects relative to others in the industry. We might have a lot of competition and we need to keep up with that competition. That might be a driver for our projects, that we're looking for new products to put out into the marketplace to compete better with our competitors. We also want to link senior management in with our actual project execution management. So senior management will control the budget for the entire organization, where a project manager is just controlling the budget for an individual project. But that individual project is being paid for out of the main organizational budget. So when we're asking for money, we have to think about how that works into with the senior management. So software systems are individual to the organization, what kind of system they're using. If you've ever worked in an IT field, you might have heard the expression ticketing. Ticketing is how in IT management they assign tasks to people within the team in order to work on completion of a project. So the project manager will send people tickets within their governance system, and then that assigns different tasks within the project to different people. That's all kept track of within that software system. So it helps everyone know who's responsible for the current phase of the project, who's responsible, who you're going to pass it off to for the next phase of the project, and it helps the project manager keep track of where things are going and when. This is just when we're looking at the organizational culture and the environment. So project management, portfolio management, and strategic alignment. Any project that an organization takes on is going to be part of their overall strategic alignment. Organizations aren't going to take on projects that are outside of their individual strategic initiative. They want to focus on what they're good at. For example, Apple isn't going to start making desks. There might be good money in desks, but Apple is committed to making computers and cell phones and technology. And if they're going to take on a new project, it's going to be within that space. They're not going to look for a new space to get into. The portfolio management helps cover project management. So this is where we're looking at our program where several things are within one item. So everything lines up within the organization within our strategic alignment for project management. And we're going to talk a lot more about organizational culture in the next two chapters. So as I was discussing on the other slide, we're not going to take on projects that don't support the organization's overall strategic plan. We want to make sure that we're making decisions that benefit the organization. We don't want to create conflicts or confusion. We don't want to have dissatisfied customers. And if we don't prioritize our projects and get really good at scheduling our projects, we often end up wasting resources. Non-value added activities add extra time onto the project, but don't add extra value. So in project management today, we're going to look at a social technical approach. The technical part is the scientific part. This is the formal, purely logical part of the process. This is our planning, scheduling, and controlling. The sociocultural dimension is the implementation. When we work with people and teams, that's where we get into a socioculture. It's very easy for us to sit down and look at a project on paper and say, this is what this project should look like. If we have a perfect environment, if we have employees that do this, that, and the other thing, everything goes purely logically through this project. However, we know that in the real world, we can't always control that purely logical part. So then we have to deal with problems in implementation. What if it rains for 10 days straight when we're in the middle of a road construction project and we can't get out there and work? How are we going to navigate the problems that are created with that implementation? how do we work with a wide variety of people to come together to have the same vision on a project. I'm going to also suggest you watch a video on uh, something called bike shedding. And bike shedding can highly derail projects. So I'm going to link a YouTube video in Minot Wartburg about bike shedding for you to watch because it's something that can greatly derail project management. This is the last slide for chapter 1, and it just gives you some examples of the things that fall under those technical and socioculture aspects of project management. When I talk about the socioculture, we're going to talk about problem solving, teamwork, working in groups, getting us all on the same page with a project, political issues inside organizations. Every single organization has its own politics. And in chapter 2 and 3, we're going to talk a little bit more about those internal politics and those organizational culture items that can create issues in project management and working with people and how that interrupts things. So this is the end of chapter 1. We will move on to chapter 2